Korean manners. There are manners in all countries, but manners can be different from one country to another and can even change due to the changing times and the culture. At times, there are clashes that occur due to these cultural differences in standard manners. Korea also has its manners and can be regarded as more complex compared to that of the US. Most etiquette and manners are for others rather than for the self. Therefore, they are used for being considerate and respectful to others. Because Korean society still stresses social status, and Korean mindset is based more on collectivism rather than on individualism, Koreans put more emphasis on the manners that are expected to be followed, and this is also reflected in the Korean language. We can see it from the way that Koreans greet each other. In the US, where we live, regardless of age, we can simply wave and say hi or hello. But in Korea, the person who is younger or is of a lower social status needs to bow with their head down. The other person should also bow, but how much the speaker's head is lowered is different. So, simply by looking at how someone bows, one can determine who is in the higher social hierarchy. Shaking one's hand has also become commonplace in Korea. But even with handshakes, the older person is the one who can offer it, and it's considered rude if the younger person offers a handshake first. And even for handshakes, the younger person is to use both hands to shake hands, while the other person, the older person, can simply shake hands with one hand. Even when giving something to another person, there are manners that need to be observed. An older person can hand an item to the younger person simply by using one hand, but the younger person in the situation is expected to use two hands to give or receive something. A younger person who is seen giving or receiving something with just one hand would be seen as very disrespectful. When talking to someone, the younger person or the person in the lower social status are expected to not look at the older person in the eye. In the US, making eye contact is a standard way for people to behave when talking to each other. But in Korea, if the younger person looks back at the older person when talking or when listening, it is regarded as the younger person challenging the older person. This is another big difference between the East and the West. When riding in a car, in the US, the seat next to the driver's seat is the top seat, but in Korea, the back seat is the top seat. Therefore, it is good manners to seat an older person in the back seat instead of next to the driver's seat. Korean language has honorifics. This changes some words or the end of a sentence depending on who the speakers are in the conversation. For example, to say, I am eating in Korean, you can say, 나는 지금 먹고 있어. But if you're talking to an older person, you have to say, 저는 지금 먹고 있습니다. Or, 저는 지금 먹고 있어요. So in Korean, by listening to how people talk to each other, you can figure out their relationship and/or their social status. This makes Korean people care a lot about age. By having the younger people use honorific language to the older people, and older people use plain form of language to younger people, speakers are recognizing who is in the higher status, the social status, through speech. Therefore, when it is difficult to determine who is older or younger simply by physical appearance, people would ask each other for their age or the zodiac sign, even if it's their first time talking to each other. This makes some Koreans prefer to look older, which is usually the opposite of what people want. So even if a Korean speaker asks for your age during a conversation, don't be offended. Like this, People's age and social status is also revealed through the titles that people use when addressing each other. If one calls a teacher Kim 선생, then the person who said Kim 선생 is older or is of a higher social status than the person being called on. But if that's not the case, the speaker should include the syllable 님 at the end. So the proper way to call would be Kim 선생님. This addition of 님 is also seen in the title for someone who is a business owner, which is 사장님, in the word for parents, which is 부모님, and for the title for pastor, which is 목사님, and for the wife of one's higher up in the work setting would be 사모님. Koreans also have a tendency of not clearly saying no to an offer or a request. So they don't really like the word no. If someone offers you water, even if you don't want it, you should take it and then do something about it afterwards. If you had refused the water, you would be seen as ignoring the other person's kind action. In English, the phrase no thanks is used often, but Koreans very seldom say negative phrases like no or I don't like it. So some Americans say that Koreans never say no. So for Koreans to hear no, they might become offended. Other ways that Koreans refuse or say no to an offer would be to use the phrase for a little bit, which is 좀, and also use 편이다 to reduce the level of directness when saying no. These are ways that Koreans try to be humble and considerate of others in speech. There are many other cultural differences seen in standard manners, but we looked at a few through this video. You will naturally learn more about other cultural differences as you continue to learn Korean. It is very important to understand the other culture, especially when learning the language of that culture, and in today's society, where diversity is emphasized.